Hey, welcome back, guys. It's Robert Rule of 2 Review here, and today, how about all this awesome Halo 5 news? Man, this is a really exciting time. All this news about Halo 5 the last couple of days has been getting me really excited. As I've talked about a couple of times on the videos, but not really a whole lot, I am actually a huge Halo fan. I have been since day one. I have been this whole time. I know that Halo is this really sort of polarizing kind of subject and franchise in the gaming industry because it was at some point the pinnacle of gaming, the most popular thing happening. And although it's sort of been superseded by a couple things, most notably Call of Duty, which is easy to relate it to because it's also a first-person shooting game, it's still this kind of game that because of its popularity, just like anything in this respect, kind of becomes a bigger target for a lot of people. So you've got all these people who've been this huge fan of the series and they love it and they defend it. And then because it's so popular, a lot of other people start to sort of look down on it, talk bad about it, try to alienate and discredit people who seem to enjoy the franchise simply because it's so popular, and people don't like people liking popular things if they don't also like it. So that's sort of been the trend. Halo has been that way, yet at the same time, what I think is remarkable about the series, and I'm so happy to see this happening, especially now with all this new news in the last couple of days, it's showing that the franchise has this amazing ability to endure. And here it is, and it's becoming the topic of conversation again, and people are just getting excited about it again. And it's showing that the love and appreciation for the quality of the series, because I do believe the series is of the utmost quality, I don't care what anyone says, that quality is still apparent to people, and people still like and respect it. And there's not a lot of naysaying happening right now, and that just tickles me to tears. I'm so happy to hear that because I think Halo is such a wonderful franchise. So, as you probably know, a lot has been happening with some of the announcements about the next Halo game, and which kind of is a little bit telling about the overall future of the series. So, I am going to get into my feelings and, overall general thinking about the topic. Okay, so first and foremost, the most obvious thing that I need to kind of get out of the way and recap is the recent revelation about the next Halo game, which we have actually known about. Of course, at last year's E3, they did show a pretty interesting CG. I don't want to call it a trailer. It was kind of a teaser, just a little CG movie that was about a minute and a half long of, ultimately Master Chief trudging through the desert and then seeing this huge thing rise out of the sand. And it was very cool. Gave us no information other than that Halo, it's another Halo game, probably Halo 5. Get ready, expect it soon. Until recently, they had been saying that the next Halo game, i.e. Halo 5, was coming out this year. What has happened in the last couple of days, like I was saying, is that Halo 5 has now been officially announced as Halo 5 Guardians. So that is the full title. It's the first game in the series, not including ODST, because that wasn't a traditional sequel, whereas this is a traditional sequel. It's the first traditional game to have an actual... Oh, and then there's also Halo Reach. Again, not really a sequel. But again, this is a numbered actual Halo game, Halo 5 Guardians. It has a subtitle. It's the first time in the series history. And it's also been confirmed, this is the only tragic thing, that apparently they're shooting for fall 2015, fall next year. That just hurts my soul. It's like twisting the knife a little bit more. I'm so sad to hear that news. But hey, it is what it is. We know these things take time. And, hey, taking time to make sure a game that we care about and that I want as much as I do is made as perfect perfection as possible, ultimately I still have to be okay with, even if it means I have to wait longer and longer. I mean, waiting long times for games that we care about and delays and this and that is not new to the industry. I've been following it since the 80s, so I've been seeing this happen this whole time. So it doesn't really surprise me. Yes, it hurts, but ultimately I think it's just going to make the best Halo 5 game possible, and that is okay. So it was just announced as Halo 5 Guardians. They released both a picture of what's ultimately, I think, going to be the box art, very interesting and telling, showing Master Chief and another character, which I'm going to show right around now so you can have a quick look at it, as well as a piece of concept art, which I'm also going to show so you can have a good idea of what that stuff is. And it's very minimal information, only letting us know scant, tiny details and visually so about what it is, what direction they may be taking, what characters and people could be involved, and all this good stuff about Halo 5, the next Halo, why it's going to be called Guardians, all this stuff. Lots of rumors coming out because of these pieces of art that they've released and the fact that it's been announced as Halo 5 Guardians when they had previously said the next Halo game will be coming out this year. So as, oh my gosh, excuse me guys, as a huge Halo fan, I'm going to kind of talk about what I think may or may not be happening. Okay, so let's get into a few more of the serious details about the game and what little has been made public about the game since the announcement of Halo 5 and Guardians and everything happening here. So Bonnie Ross, who is very publicly the general manager at 343, pretty awesome woman. I really like her. I think she's a smart businesswoman and a great person to be dealing with that studio and the franchise, because I haven't really talked about this much yet, but I thought Halo 4 was a masterpiece. Honestly, just me personally, you may disagree. Me personally, it's probably my favorite Halo game. I just was blown away and shocked with how good I thought that game was. Absolutely exceeded my already high expectations. So her and her studio have done an amazing job with Halo so far. I so feel comfortable with the series in their hands. So she made, I think it was a blog post or a press release or something about this a couple days ago when this news became public. Is this the day before yesterday? I think so. This would have been Saturday, I believe. Anyway, so this is something that she said about Halo 5 with this announcement. She says, and I quote, "Halo 5 Guardians is a bigger effort than Halo 4. That applies to the content and scope of the game, as well as the technology in what's now a brand new and more powerful engine. Certainly, there are some core elements carried over from prior games, and we've invested a huge effort in retooling our tech to take full advantage of the Xbox One's hardware and ecosystem to create worlds and experiences worthy of next gen." That's her quote. She also says the game will run at 60 frames per second on dedicated servers with the scope, features, and scale we've been dreaming of for more than a decade. So really, she hasn't been making Halo for more than a decade, but ultimately what she's saying there, it still rings true, I guess, especially as a developer. You know, she would know what she's talking about way more than I would. So maybe as a developer, she's been thinking about how to make Halo this way even before her studio took over the franchise. So everything she said, I pretty much really like. I think it makes sense when you consider that, you know, obviously we're taking Halo and we're moving it now to its third generation since its inception. Remember, it launched with the Xbox One. 2001, by the way, was the first Halo game, just in case you haven't really put that in perspective for yourself yet. On the original Xbox, the day that console launched, like November 2001, and Halo 2, of course, was released on the Xbox, and then Halos 3, ODST, Reach, and 4, all released on the Xbox 360. Here we come to Halo 5 Guardians, first Halo game on the Xbox One. So it's now spanning its third generation of home consoles. It's been synonymous with the Xbox brand since, again, its inception, because it launched with the system and was the only thing worthy of keeping that system alive and playable for the first couple of years of that system's life. Now, the last couple of years, the Xbox had some good games, but the first couple of years, we used to joke, back when I used to run a GameStop, by the way, we used to joke that the original Xbox was a Halo TV converter, quote unquote, which was pretty funny and clever, we thought at the time. Anyway, those days are long gone. Now the Xbox is a great machine. And so we know that Halo 5 is moving to this new generation. She says some things that I guess they're exciting to hear, but they're also obvious. I mean, you know, it's a bigger effort than Halo 4. Obviously, A, it's the newer game. B, it's also on a new generation of hardware. She says this applies to the content, the scope of the game, and the technology that's with a more powerful, brand new engine. Again, kind of obvious things because we know we're stepping up to the new generation. It is reassuring to hear that they're not really just taking the same old engine and retooling it for the new power that the Xbox One provides. It sounds like they're creating a whole brand new engine for the game, which they did also for Halo 4. If that's true, that's good for a couple of reasons. It's good because it's a new generation and we want a brand new engine. We want it to really be taking full advantage from the ground up of what the Xbox One can do compared to the Xbox 360. And it's great because it really shows, I think, the effort and dedication that 343 has in the series and probably the pride that they have in now being responsible for Halo. Because like I said, not only did they work to create a brand new engine for Halo 4, they might already, with just their second effort in the franchise, be making a whole nother new engine. And that takes so much time, resources, manpower, and MF and money. That is expensive. And they are really, really dedicating to this if that's what they're willing to do. So bravo, I applaud them. I applaud Miss Ross and the entire team at 343. Good for you guys. I think that you're doing it right if this really is as true as it sounds. So I think it's also neat to talk about the Xbox One's hardware and the ecosystem to create worlds and experiences worthy of next gen, You know, really cool things. We know that the Xbox One has a very unique UI. It's something that I was talking about on my last video, some of the things that I like and dislike about the idea of the UI. But I do think that when it comes to gaming, the way they're integrating the online universe and ecosystem, like she says, of the Xbox One, I think that for for the Xbox's, signature franchise of Halo, that that world, that universe, that ability they have with the online effort of the Xbox One, I think could probably play in huge to Halo moving forward. So here's some of the other things that I want to get into. The details about what could be happening with Halo 5, and not so much the concept art that they revealed, but really the picture of Halo 5 that shows Master Chief and this other person. Because this other person is the big hubbub that everyone's talking about, and it's very interesting to think about what that person could mean and be, and who they could be, and what it means going forward. There's a lot of theories, and I'll touch on those too. But what's really interesting to me is that, okay, so with Halo 4, it was very publicly noted that Halo 4 was the beginning of a brand new trilogy, at least at the time. Some of this stuff makes me wonder if their overall sort of game plan going forward is different than what it was when Halo 4 came out. But I will remind you that when Halo 4 was coming out, they labeled the Halo 4 as the first of what is being dubbed the Reclaimer trilogy, quote unquote. Now, Reclaimer, Master Chief, some of you may or may not remember, Guilty Spark in the first Halo referred to Master Chief as a Reclaimer a couple times in those end sort of few missions. And it was never really explained or expanded upon. That was just sort of what it was. You didn't really know what it meant. You just kind of went with it because Guilty Spark was a unique, fun, goofy, but very interesting and important character, and you just let it happen. You didn't really you were like, oh, Reclaimer, whatever. You didn't even really think about it. Then with the announcement of Halo 4 and the announcement of this quote-unquote Reclaimer trilogy, it was kind of like, oh yeah, like, that meant something back in the first game, but we didn't know what. And now we've got a whole new trilogy with a whole new studio taking over the franchise, and they're now bringing this idea, this concept back. This is the Reclaimer trilogy. We basically know Master Chief is a Reclaimer because Guilty Spark referred to him as the Reclaimer, but what does that really mean? Hopefully, 343 is still planning on delivering on this idea, and that this concept of of Master Chief being the Reclaimer, whoever or whatever the Reclaimer is, and this new trilogy that they're doing is still intact going forward. Now, I do think it's weird in the sense that the way Halo 5 is being treated and spoken about right now by Bonnie Ross and 343 and the industry as a whole is that they're making it sound, and this could be wrong. I mean, we don't really know enough information, so I'm just throwing these ideas out there to consider. It sort of sounds like they're treating Halo 5 as a whole brand new starting point. It doesn't sound as much like it's continuing what Halo 4 began to put in place, whereas Halo 4 did feel like a first new step in a new series while still ongoing from the previous 3 games, or 4, what have you. It feels like Halo 5 is being treated as a new game and a new experience. And I don't know if that's true, and if it's true, I don't really know what that means, and I don't know what that means for Halo 4 because that game is so good to me. I'd hate for it to be like forgotten about and lost in the sense of what's going on. I want this Reclaimer trilogy of Halos 4, 5, and 6 to exist. I want them to deliver on that because that made me really excited, and even more so once I played Halo 4 and, like I said, realized how unfreaking believable I found that game to be. So whatever this means, we know we have this new kind of person here being involved, this other Spartan that's shown in the picture. Again, you saw it earlier, and I'm sure you've seen it already. And so here are some of the theories people talk about. Initially, some people thought that this was a really cool theory, that this person might be Cortana, because as we know, spoiler alert, in Halo 4, Master Chief and Cortana's relationship was so excellently executed, and Cortana did not, as far as we know, make it through the end of that game. She basically, as far as we know, is no longer around. So what's interesting is people thought this might be Cortana because of the blue sort of the visor and the face mask, the helmet that this person is wearing. There's another character people thought that he or she could be, which was a character. Oh, I already forgot her name. Palmer was her last name. I had to do a little bit of research because I wasn't quite sure if I was going to recognize or know who this person was. But it was a female soldier. Her name was Palmer. She showed up in, I think, Halo 3 and 4. Just kind of a real tough cookie, someone to be, an interesting character and a compliment to Master Chief going forward. Now, you can research and find out more about her. Again, I only know scant details about her, but there's a whole backstory and history and origin about her that's online, and you can find that stuff, so please go read up on her. So that's kind of something that people thought it was Cortana or Palmer. Both female characters, by the way, very interesting. Now, what has apparently happened, it has been confirmed through a few sources that I looked through and researched before making this video, is that person has been confirmed to not be Cortana and to not be female. So not only do we know it's not Cortana, we know it's a man. And it kind of looks like the body build could be sort of feminine or at least ambiguous enough, so I see why people saw that, because it's a much kind of smaller, thinner looking frame than Master Chief's. But we now know officially it is a man, so that rules a couple people out. Honestly, my personal theory is that even though some people want to think that this is someone already established in the Halo universe, I kind of have a feeling it's not. I think that if they're really trying to separate this game from previous ones, whether that includes Halo 4 or not, and they're really trying to move forward with some big steps here, I think that the smart move, and what to me would even seem as the obvious move, would be to make this a brand new person, introduce a new character that is going to be very integral to the story, the arc of the story, and to Master Chief as a person and the character that carries the Halo franchise. I think this is going to be a new person. Maybe because of the offsetting blue, it's easy to think of this person as not being bad. Maybe this is going to be a good person, someone who's an ally to Master Chief or on Master Chief's side. But obviously, it's just as likely this person is a bad person, someone to be a counterpoint to Master Chief or the new enemy, since we know the Didact didn't survive, again, as far as we know, at the end of Halo 4. So who knows? Now, here's one other thing I want to talk about, and I'm probably going to wrap this whole thing up here because I'm making a long video, as I tend to do. Honestly, I like to think, and maybe this is just the fanboy in me and the major crush that I have, I don't think that Cortana's gone. She has meant so much to the series, and more important than to the series and to how we've experienced her as gamers playing the series, she means a lot to Master Chief. And I think that they need to keep that intact. I really hope that Cortana is not gone forever and that she comes back in some capacity. I genuinely think that she will be back. I think that it is so easy to write her back in if they wanted to. As long as it doesn't feel forced or shoehorned, it's obviously what they need. I think it's absolutely what they need to do. I just don't want Cortana to go away. She's such a great character, and I never felt more strongly about her than the way everything happened in Halo 4, because just goddamn, that was so well done. I was shocked and blown away. I was hanging on every word that they said, excuse me, hanging on every word that they said to each other throughout that entire experience. So that really leads to why I just don't think that she could be gone forever. There was so much going on. And like I said, it was the hook of Halo 4. And although it would be really kind of, beautiful, poetic, and romantic to have her really be gone in a sense after the way things played out in Halo 4, that would be great and I wouldn't be mad at them. I just feel like it's foolish. And it's obvious that there's more she could do and probably lend to the story and to Master Chief as a character. Not to mention, like I said a minute ago, I have such a crush on her after Halo 4. It's ridiculous, guys. Like, it's the silliest thing in the world. And I swear I'm not a desperate guy who just gets crushes on female video game characters and doesn't know females in real life. Trust me, I am a very social female, used to female person. But goddamn, Cortana was just amazing, It also helped Jennifer Hale, who I believe was her actress, one of the most prominent female voice actresses. She delivered what is probably a top 3 or 4 all-time voice acting performance in that game for Cortana. So that very much lent to it as well. I believe that was Jennifer Hale, and I hope so because I'm actually going to be meeting her at a festival that's happening here in my hometown sometime next month. I think actually the weekend after E3, there's a huge convention that happens here. It's a Comic-Con convention. So she's going to be there and I'm going to be meeting her. And I really hope that I can confirm that she was the person who voiced her because she just knocked it out of the park. Anyway, there's probably a lot more I could talk about or you could talk about or hear me talk about regarding Halo 5 Guardians. But again, we really don't know a whole lot. We've had the few things confirmed. They've talked about it a little bit. They've told us Cortana and Palmer are not going to be this new character. We know it's a man. Halo 5 is called Guardians. What does it mean for the trilogy, for Halo 4, for the Reclaimer concept? We don't quite know yet, but I'm sure we're going to be getting more details over the next year and a half now until the game comes out. Lest I remind you, I'm going to leave you with this. The really unfortunate news that the game is now not coming out in 2014, which, by the way, I think really hurts the Xbox One. So I'm hoping that they can knock some stuff out of the park at E3 because, damn, that's a huge loss for them this year. But we know it's coming out now. Fall 2015 is what they're shooting for. That is a long-ass ways away. It's only the beginning of summer 2014. It's a year and a half, guys. That's a long wait. But, hey, we're going to get a lot of good information. Hopefully we'll get to see it at least at E3 this year, which is only in about 2.5, 3 weeks now. So as long as we get to see it and get some good concrete ideas, I think that'll satiate us enough for now. And hopefully the Xbox One at least still has some really good games coming out in 2014 so the system doesn't totally drown on itself and fall on its face. The price drop is going to help. So whatever, that's a conversation for another day. As for now, that's pretty much all my thoughts on Halo 5 Guardians. And so, of course, that is it for today for Halo 5 Guardians and my thoughts and feelings on the subject. Of course, if you like what I'm doing and you like Rule of Two Review, then you can please feel free to subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. If you like the video, you can like the video and share it. And you can also share your comments and your thoughts about Halo 5 below. And thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I will catch you guys next time.